I always thought of myself as a very self-aware person, like very. I'm always like, I felt like I was 30 when I was 12. You know what I mean? Like I've always been someone who has tried a lot to pay attention to what do I think, what do I feel, all these sorts of things. What was really shocking to me was the recognition of how much I wasn't listening to my needs or even really aware that they were even being triggered or needed. You know what I mean? Like I was so good at going, well, this person needs it more than I do. And I'm really strong, so I can handle anything. Right? How many of us have felt that line before? I'm strong, I can handle it, give it to me. They're the ones that are having a hard time. Let me handle it so that they don't have to, right? And what I learned is how much that experience, how unaware of my own sort of needs on even in small ways, right? So our needs are expressed both in big and small ways. Our body tells us that we have these things, right? I know for myself, one of the things that I was never aware of really until much later in my life was my anxiety that I get in social situations or in just in general. And I didn't even know that I was supposed to be paying attention to those little sort of physical cues that was letting me know, hey, you're having anxiety right now. Because mentally, I was totally fine. Mentally, I was like, no, I don't even know what you're talking about, anxiety. Like I'm totally chill and cool as a cucumber right now. What do you mean anxiety? Anxiety feels like, oh no. That's not what I'm feeling at all. And in reality, it was more so a much more subtle form of it, right? Where I had to actually learn to rehear my body's reactions telling me, hey, something's going on. You're actually feeling discomfort, or you're feeling tension or stress or worry or concern or anxiety. And I didn't know. I didn't know because I had grown up and learned how to push snooze on my feelings so much that, and not just feelings, because like I'm always like, what do you mean? I'm very sensitive. I feel everything. Like I thought I had that all under control. Turns out I did not. Turns out when it came to my own needs, when it came to my own feelings, when it came to what was even just on a day-to-day basis, I was blind to that because I had learned how to quiet that little alarm bell because I had to, right? I had to learn to quiet that little alarm bell to get through lived experiences that I had, whether that was growing up or whether that was, in friendships and relationships and and all of those are connected back into our belief systems about ourselves. When we have belief systems about ourselves, or maybe we were taught, from a very young age that we are, there's just so many stories. Like I'm trying to think of even just one, like that to earn love, you must be helpful, right? To earn love, you need to be perfect. You need to reach these goals. You need to be, achieving XYZ to receive love, right? There's so many stories that we have heard growing up that tell us you need to be X so that you can be rewarded, right? And I think a lot of us spend a lot of time maybe not realizing how those kinds of stories impact us in big and small ways, right? I know for myself, mine is if you're helpful, you'll get love, right? If you're of service, you'll get love, right? And then we also have religion, for those of us who may have that in our past, can also reinforce these same ideas, right? I mean, I can just think of, any of us who were Catholic can often feel a lot of guilt around a lot of things, right? Like guilt, Jewish guilt, Catholic guilt, Mormon guilt. There's all kinds of guilt out there that we can experience that add to this idea of you're not good enough, right? You need something else to save you from XYZ, right? There's all these stories and themes that teach us in our society that self-sacrifice, that sort of thing, sacrifice yourself for others. And while there can be noble moments of that, where I think that, doing things that are for the betterment of others, when we live our entire life as a martyr or as someone who is, sacrificing themselves all the time for others, that's not the best, right? And then sometimes we can even buy into the reward that we get from those behaviors. Oh, I'm doing it yet again. Here I am carrying all the stress and all the burden. No, 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 it's fine. I can do it. Let me handle it, right? And we're actually getting a reward from this sort of self-punishment, this self-sacrifice, this self sort of whatever, right? And so what we want to do with our awareness then is just starting to listen to ourselves, listen to those little, I don't know how many of you have this thing, but where when I start to get into a situation, even if it's a conversation with someone, if it's, I see this a lot with my work, where like, I find those little moments where I feel the slightest bit of tension, where it's almost like I don't want to do this thing, but I almost feel like I'm obligated to do this thing. So I sort of swallow that little bit of tension and just go, okay. Do you know what I mean? And then like you sort of take on that little bit of tension, right? And then you kind of keep going, and then another situation arises and you sort of, not really the most comfortable thing, but okay, it's not big enough for me to really have an issue with it. I'll shoulder that too. And we go through our lives and we keep doing that over and over and over and over and over and over. And then eventually those start, as we were talking about with Susan mentioned, the adding and subtracting of our resources sack, right? That's subtracting. And then it's not until things go kaboom, because now just the most minor thing just occurred, but you're already so filled to the brim that we are unable to have any more resources for even the most minor thing. Does that sound familiar to anyone? Because Lord knows that's true for me. And, even as I talk about that, I feel that there is this sense of, I don't know, guilt is not quite the right word, but a sense of obligation, right? Like a sense of duty, a sense of I should be doing this because I should be whatever it is, And I think that for many of us who are very sensitive, caring, loving people, there's a lot of shoulds that go around. And especially in the line of work that we do, there's so much shoulding we do all over ourselves. And I think that what I would love for this month to be, especially with awareness, is learning to identify even those little tiny moments where in some way I am creating that, I'm ignoring that tension. So I want you to start to look at that tension and go, oh, in this moment, whether you decide to continue doing whatever it is you're going to do in that instance, but when do I feel that little sense of tension, and starting to pay attention to the tension, and make a conscious choice. How do I want to respond to the tension? We can go, okay, yes, I'm aware of that tension, and I'm going to continue doing whatever it is this moment is asking of me. That is different from, I feel the tension and don't even notice it and just keep going, right? It's the awareness that starts to give us intentionality later on down the road, right? If we are aware of our choices, if we're aware of what it is that we need to achieve or do or, process in the moment, it gives us power. It gives us power to act and decide and choose and determine how is it that we want to respond to this rather than our general reactivity.